What's good, America? It's your boy Reggie Florima, aka Big Flo, one half of the dynamic duo, the Big Flo and O Show. Oliver's back today, buddy. How you doing, O?
Finally back in this thing.
Man,
Pandemic couldn't get me down, but I'm back. I'm back.
back, man. Look, good to have you back. Good to have you back, man. Today you brought back with a special friend. You got some guests today. The next guest that we're going to have on the show is a guy coming from University of Colorado, second round draft pick by the Steelers. Raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. A round of applause, please, for KORDELL Stewart.
My man KORDELL. K-Stu, what up, bro? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, baby. I can hear you. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, man. You out on the golf course early, bro. Getting after it, huh?
Well, I tell you what, that's been the only thing keeping me moving around. You hear all the noise in the background. That's the workers cutting the grass and riding around on John Deere's. But I like to get out early so I get back home to my son and spend the majority of the day with him. So I get myself up and moving around pretty early to get this thing going, man. The older we get, the earlier we got to get up.
Must
true.
be rough.
It's true.
Must
Old
be
people
rough.
don't sleep long. Hey, quick question now, man. So a lot of people know a lot about what they, got to see with you in the NFL, but a lot of people don't know a lot about you because you're a private person. I know when we got drafted, we came in the Steelers when did we come in? 95? 95 is when we came to the Steelers. You were a real private person.
Yep,
and that's one of the things that I've always liked about you is, but tell us about KORDELL Stewart, the person. Tell us how you got started playing football back in the NL.
Yeah, well, that's a class down there. Sports, whether it's basketball or football, it's not it's no other way to do it down that way. In some cities, you have so much to offer, so many things to give, and being that we have so many athletes and it comes so natural to us, that's kind of out of the sixth class. We don't even have homeroom. That is the sixth class, right? So, it started out just playing ball, man, having fun with my friends in the neighborhood and really just being able to utilize the skills that I had to be able to turn it into something really special, which was being All-State in high school, to get to the league, becoming All-American, to being able to take it to the National Football League and take that fun stuff that we once did growing up as kids, turned into being an NFL player, which was playing quarterback, running back, and wide receiver, and punting the ball a couple times too. So, just took the childhood side of everything and took it to the National Football League, and everything else kind of went from there.
Hey, KORDELL, I'm still a little upset with you because last time I saw you in person, you guys were beating the hell out of us 42-24 in the Fiesta Bowl. I don't know how Oliver let that friendship start after some shit like that, but that was a little unfortunate, man. You guys caught us at a bad year. You guys are coming off of Heisman Trophy winners and all kind of craziness, and that wasn't right, man. A lot of people still upset with you about that.
A lot of excuses too, man. A lot of dang on excuses.
It was sunnier on our side of the field. It only rained on our side of the ball. What else you got? What else we got? Oh, I know you're not a big excuse guy, but you got to help me out here. What else do we got going? Oh, we lost you. Oh, Mike. Your mic went out. It went out. So
we still there. We're still
here.
Yeah. Well. I'll say it like this here. Having a chance to play against Oliver in the Fiesta Bowl, they were going through that issue of determining if they were going to wear their green jerseys or their navy blue jerseys. So there was a huge delay with coming out, and we're sitting out here on the sideline looking at this foolishness. Of course, OG at the time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you was 55, right, OG? Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you? Yeah. So OG was, I remember. So, because he was pacing as they were coming out of the tunnel back and forth. Yeah. And we're like, who is this dude? Like, why is he so bouncy and jumping around all over the place, right? So, of course, I got Brian Stoneberg next to me, Chris Neoli, Heath Irwin, my offensive lineman, Tony Birdie, Derek West, and I got Rashawn because I was always with the boys in the trenches. Not saying Michael Westbrook wasn't one of the guys, but that's where it starts. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we're going to get him. And lo and behold, OG had his game. He played like he always played, but nobody else was capable of following him in a sense of that intensity, that passion, if you will. But we had all 11 guys on our side of the ball that was playing that way. So, with that, it ended up turning to a good old fashioned, smackdown.
Take it easy.
I'm sorry.
Take it easy. So here's the excuse. From our side of the field. So I'm out there with Oliver on D. I'm not as memorable as he was at the time, but Cordell, you and I actually came out of high school the same year. I just realized that today, but we came out,
Okay.
and it's funny because I choose Notre Dame, you choose Colorado. That was kind of the rivalry. That last game, that mysterious clip that they did against you guys.
Right?
You were excited about that, so you went to Colorado because you side with the refs, right? I go with the side of justice. I went with the side of justice, and I chose Notre Dame. Okay. So two different paths. But anyway, that game, there's a lot of things happened. Bobby Taylor was gone that day, and you guys, another story I'll tell. So you guys didn't have the discipline we had at Colorado. So we would go out to the bars, right? And this, I'm gonna tell you, I don't want to make you lose fans, but this is how rude you guys were. We would go to the bars, and we had curfew. I think our curfew was like 9:15 or something like that. But you guys could stay out all night long. So we would go to the bars, and you specifically were at a one bar the last time we got in trouble. Real funny story. We go out to the bar, and so it's like 11 o'clock, and you get on the mic, and you're like, Notre Dame, it's curfew, time to leave. And the thing that matters, we really had to go, right? We really had to go.
You did.
So we decided this one day, man, we're not going. Man. We're tough. You know what I mean? We're getting tough. So we get tough that day, and they did a real mean bed check. We lost a couple more corners. So we had a true freshman find out he got to start the day of the game, and his job to cover Michael Westbrook, and then his job to come up on Rashaan Salam on the pitch, on the option. So things didn't work out as well as we planned going into the game. But you know what? That's what happens sometimes.
I'll say this. To that, y'all contained Michael. Y'all retained Rashaan really well. I think y'all kept him under 100 yards, maybe.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that. Nobody, the internet wasn't popping back then, so we might not be able to figure that out. So we'll take that.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, because Rashaan would normally average 100-plus yards a game, because that's what we was really emphasizing. Mm-hmm. But, he kind of did what he did. And most Heisman Trophy winners, when coming off of their ceremonies, if you will, to playing in that bowl game, mm-hmm. They don't normally get off normally like they would during the regular season. But, back to what you're saying about that curfew, man, y'all was hard-headed. See, that's why y'all couldn't really get it together. In the first half. I think we were up 33-3 in the first half because you guys were mad because Coach Holtz, probably came down on you so hard because you were trying to be tough. And,
the game was on late. The game was on late, and we were used to being in bed. You guys had I'll give your coach that. The game was late, so he let you stay out late, so you had your sea legs underneath or something like that.
We wasn't out late. No, Coach Mack. Let me tell you something now. When you got Coach Mack, you got Doc Crease at that time. You had Rick Neuheisel, who was my quarterback's coach. It wasn't just one person checking the room. You had a couple people checking the room to make sure you were good. So, I'll say this. I thought it was a great game in a sense of the excitement and the energy, and you guys travel extremely well, regardless, win, lose, or draw. You guys travel extremely well. I thought it was a great, I guess you could say, introduction to the quote unquote rivalry, because I think 89 and 90, that was a national championship game. Notre Dame won in 89. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, and we didn't have, I can go to your point, we didn't have George Hemingway as the fullback in 89. He wasn't there. But then we all of a sudden in 90, we get George Hemingway in that game. And it did come down to the infamous, clip blocking the back.
Mysterious
for special
clip.
Teams. Mysterious clip.
Mysterious clip.
Of course, that year in high school, going all the way back to the Pigskin Classic when they played against Tennessee.
We went way
back.
Way back.
I remember watching that game, and I remember I was being recruited by Colorado. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't make my commitment then. I didn't commit to Colorado by then. Mm-hmm. I was still in the Syracuse, Arkansas, South Carolina, Notre Dame, even, if you will, because I was in love with Tony Rice. Mm-hmm. He was a beast. I remember you guys used to wear your Adidas shoes, and at the bottom of your shoes, you used to have that orange painting at the bottom of those shoes. Guess what kind of shoes I ended up getting when I was in my senior year? Those same Adidas shoes that Tony Rice was wearing. And so I didn't want to wear number 9 because somebody else had. I wore number 10, a guy named Terrence Jones, who was a quarterback at Tulane at the time in New Orleans. I ended up wearing his number, but I was a huge Notre Dame fan, just so y'all know. Mm-hmm. My boy to this day still talk trash to me about, quote unquote, as he calls it, watching boring Notre Dame, right? But I was like, dude, you got to understand, Notre Dame, regardless, because I wasn't on one side or the other as far as where I wanted to go to school. I was still in school. I didn't know. I was just following the option quarterbacks, which is what Tony Rice was at that time. Really, 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 really good with the wishbone. I'm talking phenomenal. Probably one of the best wishbones teams in the country at that time, other than places like Nebraska, Colorado, everybody. But you guys were the staple because you guys were in national championships. And so you're kind of like the Cowboys of college football, right? In a sense. And so I was loving it. And so when it came down to it, I ended up getting a phone call from you guys one time. And I never got another phone call back again. And I came down to Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska, and then went to Colorado on my last visit. And by the time I got there, fellas, and saw that they just won a national championship going 2 years in a row. You know, the tradition was on its way up. And so being that I was the number one recruit coming in that 91 year, I couldn't help but take it because it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And plus, I was like, if you could live in a place like this, let alone you're winning, and the energy is like this all the time, I don't want to be anywhere else. I didn't want to be anywhere else.
It sounds like it worked out for you on that. And then you had a great career there. I don't know how much you threw in high school, but you went there and you honed your skills both sides. Everyone remembers the Michigan throw. That was pretty good. It's kind of like the enemy of our enemy is our friend. So as we were Michigan fans, we'd like to see that heartbreaking loss for them. Was good, but then you get to the NFL. OG, your mic's not working. You get to the NFL and get drafted in the second round and Slash is born. Talk us through that. You are a man before your time. Talk us through your entry into the NFL and kind of the unique way they used you with the Steelers.
Well, when coming out, I was touted as being one of the highest draft choices, or the higher rather draft choices in Canada, to maybe going in the sixth round in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. So by my agent at the time, Lee Steinberg, I ended up met him through my coach, Rick Neuheisel, kind of did the introduction thing for me because he knew Lee from his UCLA days. And I think playing in the World League, the USFL, Lee ended up introducing me to Warren Moon, which I think nicely, and I think obviously from an African American standpoint, made me feel comfortable knowing that all the people who thought I could have been something else, Lee Steinberg having someone that looked like me made me feel as if he understood it. Now, it wasn't about a black or a white thing. It was just the best representation I could possibly get. Because most other agents was also saying that you can go as an athlete. I was like, I don't want y'all. I don't need you guys. I never forget it. And I end up going in with Lee, and Lee was like, "Is this what you want to do? Play quarterback?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, just know I have Warren Moon." Then he talked about the Mark Brunells. He started talking about the Steve Youngs of the world, right? And all these guys are mobile quarterbacks. Let alone you got an African American, then you have Drew Bledsoe, then you got Troy Aikman. So I'm like, this is really not about race, if you will, or ability. This is about someone that can best represent you. So end up getting Lee, man, and before you know it, once I ended up getting him, it ended up being the greatest decision I made. Got into the league. I went to the Steelers in the second round as the 60th pick as a quarterback. I was asked a question in Indy before getting drafted: if we wanted you to do something else, would you? I said, sure, whatever. The cliche thing to say, right? To make sure you get in, right? So I said it. I got in the league. Oliver can attest to this. Rod Woodson ended up getting his knee torn up against the Detroit Lions when Barry Sanders ended up breaking him down in Three Rivers. To Neil O'Donnell fracturing his pinky finger. To Charles Johnson hurting his knee. To Andre Hastings, I think going through his lows of injuries. I mean, we were decimated with injuries. And then I think we were down like what? We were down 2 and we was like 2-4, something to that extent. And I just remember in practice because OG and I was always together, walking back and forth to practices because we'd have to walk from Three Rivers to the actual practice field, which was every bit of a half a mile or so away. I just would be on the practice field helping out on special teams, kickoff, because, using your body, not in a sense of recklessness, but just as a person to be in your position to playing quarterback, to playing receiver, just doing whatever I needed to do. But once those injuries came, I went to Coach Cowher. I said, Coach, whatever I can do to help, I would love to do it. Because I'm just tired of holding the clipboard, on the sideline with some khaki pants on, a Steeler T-shirt and the Steeler hat. I mean, that became very irritating, right? And one thing led to another in practice one day. Neil is throwing me the ball, and how I warmed up, most quarterbacks normally warm up, they stand right there and don't move. So I started moving side to side, back to the left, to the right, as Neil was throwing to me, give him a moving target. But I was also doing that for conditioning. So one thing, right? Right, it was freezing. So one thing leads to another. Um, Neil's like, "Can you catch? Would you play receiver?" I said, "Hell yeah." I said, "Why not?" I mean, I did it when I was in Little League. Far as in the streets at the crib. Take the ball, throw it up in the air, do whatever, and keep it moving. Right. So one thing leads to another again, and
hey, Oliver, whatever your mic is doing is making a echo.
Echo. Yeah, and so I sit up here and you get all right. So I sit up here and I get in practice. I run from the slot position. I run a seam. I run a go route from the slot position. Rod Woodson is covering me. I gave him a shake move. I run down the seam, catch about a 45-yard catch and going into the end zone. So, of course, he comes back. He's like, "Man, I didn't know what he was doing, man. This knock-kneed and pigeon-toed dude. I can't da-da-da-da-da." So I'm saying to myself, I got him too. So all of a sudden, I get Cornell Lake in the slot over me. I get him too. I get Willie Williams in the slot over me. I get him too. I get Kung Fu Chewy, Greg Lloyd, who will eventually go into the Hall of Fame.
Name them all, baby. Name them all. Who else is on that hit list? Name everybody. OG, did you get some of that? Did you try to come out and get some of that? Let's go.
Right. So all of a sudden, I get him standing in front of me. So guess what? All of a sudden, I beat him too. So one thing leads to another. Now, mind you, I don't care about what you've done. I didn't care about who you were.
Not here to
Where
read
I
resumes.
come from, it's about competing.
Yep.
And respectfully, I love each one of those guys I just mentioned, and I still stay in touch with them to this day, literally. Like Greg Lloyd, we may talk maybe once or twice every 2 to 3 weeks, and we play golf together every blue moon, but we are always in touch. But, those were times where it was every man for himself, and let's just go compete. And if Coach Cowher, I asked him, I said, "Look, I'll do this as long as you give me my opportunity to play quarterback." And he told me, "I'll give you an opportunity. Can I keep my number? Can I, all of that, everything." He was like, "Yeah, you can have it." Lo and behold, OG, we end up going to the Super Bowl off of that, because that introduced the 5 wide receiver set to the National Football League, and nobody else was doing that. The most we knew about 4.
Can you guys hear me?
We got you.
Yeah, we can hear you, bro. We can hear you.
Okay, so Reg, and this is what I have to explain about that story. Everything he said, every name is correct. But the funny thing was, he was just supposed to be giving the defense a look. And he's beating Pro Bowlers. He's beating Pro Bowlers like stepchildren. It was like one cat after another. We're like, oh, hell no.
Hey, was it like college where they like, chill, Cordell, chill?
Well, here's the thing. So we in the locker room, Greg, he was intimidating enough just looking at him. OG could attest to this.
Yeah.
So he'll come over to me one day, and my locker is cat a corner from his. And he walks up to me, and he takes his foot as I'm passing, as the other one is straight on the ground, turned sideways, straight up and down. He takes the other one, put his knee up to my face, and then extends his foot and have that thing go around the back of my neck and points his toe forward and pushes me towards him. He said, "You better stop running so damn fast in practice." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm trying to give y'all a look." But I couldn't go no other speed. Lo and behold, bro, me and OG never had this conversation for as how it was in the film room, but this is the first time I'm hearing it. But that was my approach. And I think that energy, I'll let OG attest to this, that energy going up against my guys at that time caused everybody else's dude to catch pure hell, because we wasn't playing against nothing like that for as understanding where to be as a receiver for the quarterback, making guys have to run all day, because I swear to God, I didn't care. Like, literally, I did not care. If I beat the best DB on that side of the field, that meant I did my job. And so I did it so good, I ended up being one of the, I was a third receiver on offense, and I was a starter, and we ended up going to the Super Bowl, and, I got the name Slash from Myron Cope, and on the radio, and Coach Cowher, and, hats off to Chan Gailey, I think, for being creative, really the creative one, because you got to remember, he also had John Elway before his time, because Ron Earhart was the coach, but he was a Neil O'Donnell guy. All right. But Chan Gailey saw the talent along with Coach Cowher and all the other coaches and they came up, and Ron Elhart too, in all fairness, because we still ran the same system. We didn't call it Wildcat, because we wasn't doing all that foolishness. Mm-hmm. It was me playing receiver, me playing quarterback. Because remember, and OG can attest to this too, my first 2 plays as a quarterback was against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
It was like 30-15. We went a 5 wide receiver set. Neil O'Donnell was lined up next to Yancey Thigpen. We had the other 3 to the right. They didn't have a spy at that time. So right. I would get the snap, run straight up the middle. I get a 20-yard gain. The next time, which was at the quarterback position, I got my second play ever in the game with the Steelers ever, for as officially playing in the regular season, not so much preseason, was a 3-by-1 set, which was trips running to the boundary against the Cleveland Browns, where I was sprinting out, trying to throw it to Yancey Thigpen to the pylon. I reverse field, throw it to Ernie Mills in the back of the end zone, then slash is born. So my first 2 plays on the football field, first few reps, right. One as a quarterback draw, and the other one was sprint out, play, reverse field, touchdown. Nobody ever talks about it. Mm-hmm. But that's how the respect, I think, came from the Steelers of saying that we like his talent. We want to give him a chance. If it works, it does. If it doesn't, hey, we were just trying to give them a different look as the opposing team. But then it started going so good to the point where they started creating package plays for me. Yep. And then that gave me the opportunity in 97 to become the full-time quarterback. And then that's when we made it to the AFC Championship. And that's when OG and I end up living next to one another in the same townhood, townhouse neighborhood. And that's how he and I really got. Me and him, we really, that's when me and him really got close. And
hey, we're gonna do it after the show segment. We're gonna do it after the show segment. We're gonna talk about what went down in that apartment complex. But right now, we're doing this new Sunday morning time slot. We're competing with the Breakfast Club and like church, so we can't really do that type of stuff. So,
hey, so real quickly, do you look at the game now with all the dual threat quarterbacks getting paid and say, I started that gangster shit?
Well, I won't say I started it.
Not look at the game right now.
Right. I won't say, OG guys, Reg, I won't say I started it, but I damn sure would say I was that one that was having to go through a little bit of hell media-wise being accepted. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think I was the most extreme because Randall Cunningham was doing it, but it wasn't to the extreme because no one played wide receiver and did that well. Matter of fact, better than the receivers for the most part. Right. And so when you put that in the mix and knowing that Pittsburgh is a very traditional community, as well as the media and how they cover the quarterbacks, it was hard for them to accept and embrace it. Even to this day, they're talking about Taysom Hill with the New Orleans Saints, and he hadn't had a down of actually running full-time quarterback in the whole entire season yet, but they're talking about Taysom Hill. In all due respect to Taysom Hill's talents, it's not his fault. It's the media and their coverage. So if they really get to the gist of how this thing truly works, they have to tell themselves and ask themselves a question. Who was actually the first guy that showed that he had all of this talent, a la Lamar Jackson, a la Michael Vick? These guys, Michael Vick tried to play receiver, couldn't work. None of these guys were ever in the history of the game. Taysom Hill is the first one that has an opportunity. The question will be, when Drew Brees leaves, will he be able to lead the charge to get them to NFC Championship games, winning divisions, actually taking drives from the -1, methodically driving down and scoring touchdowns? That's the challenge I have for any player that chooses to play the quarterback position in the league, asked to do other things, but then can translate that talent into a quarterback, go to a Pro Bowl, be an MVP on your team, be an MVP within your conference. And I just don't think it'll happen again because guys don't have to do it, okay? They don't have to do it. The reason they brought Jameis Winston into New Orleans is because they needed a sure quarterback to back up Drew Brees, even though Taysom Hill can get some spot play of quarterback. But guys will never have to deal with that again if they don't want to. I think Lamar Jackson is even more extreme as Michael Vick is in a sense of what's being asked of them. Because I wasn't running all over the place at quarterback. I was doing 3-step drops, 5-step drops, 7-step drops, bootlegs, quarterback draws, and having to throw timing routes. having to throw in cuts, having to throw skinny routes, post routes, all the routes that cause you to have to read the defense. Not saying that they're not. From when watching it, I don't see now. I love Lamar Jackson. I think his game is absolutely beyond conversation. Michael Vick's game is beyond conversation. But those guys didn't have to play receiver to then prove that they're also a quarterback and force their hand to make them respected.
So, I had this, since I have you, and this is such a unique situation. Personally, there's some stuff going on in Illinois. We've got a young quarterback named Samuel Jackson. Remember that name, Samuel Jackson. He's going to be famous someday. He plays with my son's school. He played receiver 1 year in high school, and they got 15 touchdowns. And then because he was waiting his turn, now he's a quarterback. So now he's got people asking him, hey, why don't you consider being an athlete in college? What advice do you give to a young black quarterback? I got another one, Caden Cobb, another one that you'll hear about one of these days. Young black quarterbacks where people are saying, hey, consider being an athlete, consider doing something else. Do you say hold true and do that, or do what you got to do to get on the field? What would be your advice?
I would say just stand your ground. You don't have to change what you're doing to have an opportunity to go to the collegiate level and do it, to even go into the National Football League. The question is, are you in a situation where people are an advocate for you and your talents? So many people become nervous because they just want to play and they want to continue their career. They'll end up, I don't want to use the word folding because we use that as far as endearment of weakness, but you end up caving in, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. To
compromising, maybe better,
or even compromising to the fears of I might not get a chance. Right? Stand your ground. It's not a battle of can you, it's a battle of do you want to, right? And I don't think it's going to cost the kid. I don't think if Lamar Jackson, okay, I'll say this, and I'll go even back to when he first started playing, because this past season, he played some of the best football I've seen of any quarterback, because he was throwing the ball to the tight ends. He was throwing the ball with tremendous amount of accuracy. Because and the reason I mention that, not because he can't do it, I didn't think he could. The reason I said it that way is because so many say because guys who do have so much athletic ability and can do so much at that position are not able to be as accurate, right? Mm-hmm. So I overemphasize his accuracy in a way that's complementary to him and his resolve and his capabilities of being able to study the playbook and look the part at the position with that much ability. It's not a question. It's not a doubt. He had one of the best seasons of any quarterback in the game. Yes, he lost in their first game into the postseason. And that's okay, because how many times have we seen Peyton Manning lose in his first game?
We can go on and on. We can go on and on about that there. Yeah, we can go on and on about that.
Yeah.
There's so many. Even with Jameis Winston, if you look at Jameis Winston's numbers and the way they make it seem like he just can't protect the ball, there's so many guys who we look at as Hall of Fame quarterbacks that had picks like that and didn't have the upside that he had. But we're going to stop. I don't want to go too far. It's Sunday show.
But you know what? But here's the thing. It's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. So if you give the information from a factual standpoint, not from an opinionated standpoint, because from an opinionated standpoint, it then brings a level of emotions to where sometimes those emotions aren't heard. But if you come from a factual standpoint, as you were alluding to when you talked about Jameis Winston, I mean, how many times have we seen, if you will, quarterbacks that never made it to the postseason, like a Carson Palmer, right? He didn't get to the postseason until the latter part of his career when he went to the Arizona Cardinals.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. How many times have we seen a Phillip Rivers? Okay, his numbers are great. Numbers are phenomenal. Be cold at the beginning of the year, got hot at the end, couldn't make it as far as the numbers said he should have made it.
Right.
We can go to Steve Young and look at how horrible he was when he played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go into the World League and playing in the USFL, if you will, to then all of a sudden having to sit behind Joe Montana, Elvis Gerbach even at times, to many other coaches, players that may have gotten in before him, to where he all of a sudden got his opportunity became one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the game,
Mm-hmm.
to now as a Hall of Famer. So it's all about the patience of your organization. I think it's about the development and also being able to evolve as a coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they have to evolve as well. It's not just about the player. Because if you touted him coming out of college to come into the National Football League as early draft pick, my question is: have these coordinators and coaches evolved to be able to coach this type of talent? So you have to
You're hitting
put
so
some
many
onus on
things.
that
You're hitting
too.
so many things that I agree with, and I appreciate having your perspective. And there's a lot of people, again, near and dear to my heart. They're going to really take this. They're the father of young black quarterbacks. Like you keep saying, opportunity. Everything is opportunity. You got to be prepared, but people got to realize when you go through this football game to get to the league, so many people have to get that right opportunity for what they're doing. You mentioned,
Yeah.
can they use these players? You see all these quarterbacks, all these top 10 quarterbacks. It's wonder why there's all these top 10 quarterbacks that were in all-time NFL busts. They go to a team that had a top 10 pick, so they sucked, and they threw him out there. They have a dream of what they'd like to see as a quarterback, but then when he comes in, they haven't. This isn't what I did in college. This isn't why I was
Here's the
sweet.
thing, Reg. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Reg. Here's the thing. It's like business, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You only go off of what you understand.
Yeah.
Right. It's like your community,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, Jewish community, Asian community, Latino community, African American community. It doesn't matter. True African descent, like true African communities.
Mm-hmm.
You only know what you know, right? And in order to make it work, is the reason why I mentioned Chan Gailey's name
Mm-hmm.
with John Elway, is because Chan Gailey can identify that ability when I was in Pittsburgh.
Right.
All right. Mike Malarkey. He
Mm-hmm.
understood it. Why? Because he was the tight ends coach
Mm-hmm.
when Chan Gailey was coaching me in
Right.
Pittsburgh. So when I got him, it was easy. But when you get to Kevin Gilbrides, who come from the run and shoot era, who had put Chris Chandler in over the Hall of Famer Warren Moon,
Mm-hmm.
you can only trust the minds of those around you, right? And hope that if you come in with so much talent, that they can identify the talent and play to that strength of that athlete. If they don't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
they then dock it and say, he don't understand this or he don't understand that. But you're asking me to play like Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking me to play like Drew Bledsoe. That's not my ability. My ability is the Steve Youngs, okay? It is the Randall Cunninghams, all right? It is the Mark Brunels, okay? I can go on and on with just mobile, the Bart Starrs even, for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
okay? What's my quarterback that was in Minnesota? Number 10. Who's it?
Culpepper, Dante Culpepper.
Not Culpepper, way back in the day, number 10. Hall of Famer, way back when they were the Purple People Eaters. Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton was mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fran Tarkenton wasn't a statue,
right?
okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just.
They would have called him crafty back then. They would have called him crafty. That would have been the word, crafty.
And they would have said great pass and not a great throw.
Great pass,
right?
yeah.
So you really got to start listening.
Yeah.
And then it's who they hire to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't get emotional when I talk about,
Mm-hmm.
the plight of the mobile quarterback.
Right.
Let's say the mobile quarterback, to keep it clean, not to get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
The mobile quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I just say those who have an opportunity to talk about those quarterbacks, it can't be the guy that sat in the pocket all day. It can't be that guy who was the backup.
You're right. You got to get better analysts. You have to get better analysts.
And then it's not that they're not good analysts.
Yeah.
It's just
they're saying what they know.
Just like,
when the ESPN hired Rush Limbaugh, and then they wonder why he said what he said about Donovan McNabb. Who did you hire? Rush was just being Rush. I don't excuse Rush. I don't like the guy, but Rush was being Rush.
You just have to have balance.
You have to have balance.
Everybody's seeing who I have standing next to me right now, Marcus Allen. We're at the golf course. He just finished getting a lesson. I'll be getting one in a minute. Okay. And he helped me get Fran Tarkenton's name out, so that's who I'm speaking to. But
Marcus got 30 minutes at the end of the show. We'll give him a show, too. I want to be fair to the quarterbacks, too.
It's all good. And so it's just, for Marcus Allen, for example, all right? So when he went to USC, those coaches who were coaching the great backs at USC identified his talent. And it was comparable to everything that came in before him, right? Whether it was a black coach, whether it was a white coach, whether it was a coach that just was brand new to the game, right? If you've seen that enough, you can identify it. And if you bought into it, the media today is now bought into the Lamar Jackson.
The athleticism.
All right.
Yeah.
Into the Russell Wilson. Okay. Because he falls into that category. I'm going to go even further. Even the Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, we see him throwing that thing off his knee 70 yards, throwing that thing. The field for Patrick Mahomes is 60 yards. It's not a 100-yard field. He can throw that thing anywhere he wants to throw it. So he's playing with a shorter football field than most. But what we saw in the Super Bowl and even in the AFC Championship game and throughout the year, even though he missed, 2 to 3 games maybe, even still,
Yeah.
the brother has the ability and the mobility to do what he wants at will, which is what I did when I played the game. And that's what I tell everybody with so much confidence and swag is I can talk to my peers and anybody that has a yellow jacket on. I can tell all of those guys, I played the game the way I wanted to play the game, the way the kids at home play the game. And that was, number one, having fun and taking my ability to show it. Because I'm not going to let you use it against me, because they'll use it against you, right? Based on how they analyze the games. And I played wide receiver. It was one of the best and one of the most electric. And I played quarterback, and I was touted as one of the best at one time. To the point where I made it to the Pro Bowl and was MVP. And so it's like you can't argue what I couldn't do. The question was it accepted? And it wasn't to the extent as it is today.
Well, we're a trend. This is a trendy sport that we chose in this football thing. The top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL from a QBR standpoint last season were black, and a lot of people play in an unconventional way. And I think unconventional is going to become conventional in a way like that. So I'm glad to see that you did it back then, because it was hard. It's always harder back in the day, and you know that you do it. But I appreciate the advice you give to these kids. So it sounds like you're saying embrace the if they're going to use you in an unconventional way, embrace it. Push back. Yeah. What's the final message here? You think you should embrace that?
This is what I'll say. It's not a pushback. Don't allow them to change who you are and how you perceive the game internally. Now, we have to evolve, right? In everything in the game. Every quarterback that comes through college has to evolve. You can have the best passer in the game. It doesn't equate to a great quarterback. It just doesn't always. And you can have one with a tremendous amount of ability that doesn't equate to a great quarterback. The question is, how can that player retain that information that's given and implement who you are into what's being asked of you? Now, this is what I'll say. Don't allow the game to be mental to where, because you feel like they're not accepting you, right? Because it's all about acceptance. Accepting you to cause you to get out of your comfort zone of who you are and be something that you're not. You don't have to push back and say, hey, man, this is who I am. Let me do my thing. Play the game. If you drop back and you don't see it, step up in the pocket and make plays with your feet. Because you know what it's about? Touchdowns. It's about keeping the chains moving. It's about keeping the chains moving. Touchdown and keeping the chains moving. Because if you're winning, they won't tell you nothing. Now, if you lose, you're going to get ridiculed. And sometimes it's going to become a little bit, I would say, probably hit you a little bit more, because there will be more things that will be said, right? Because not everybody's buying into it. So what I'll say is, that's the problem that they have with your ability, not with what you have, because this is God-given ability. What you need to start saying is, that dude is playing and he can't move. Or that dude is playing and his arm is not strong enough. So if you take the glass half full approach, it'll never become personal. You'll never get out of your comfort zone, and you'll always be a step ahead, because you already know. Can he do it? 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 Will forever be said after having a great game. Can he do that next week? Oh, let's see him do it in the national championship game.
You got to be a quarterback. You got to have a strong arm, good vision, and really thick skin, because there's going to be a lot of ridicule on you, and that comes with touching the football every play. But don't hide from it. I tell these kids, look, it's great that you have the ability to do multiple things. So someone's going to always tell you that, hey, you can be a quarterback, but they're always thinking, if it doesn't work as a quarterback, we can use him as a receiver. We can use him as this.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that, because some people don't have multiple things to hustle. All they can do is hustle one thing. You know what I mean?
2 for 1.
Yeah, so
2 for 1, baby.
You can do whatever.
If I'm jack of all trades, master of none, means you get more money, you last longer.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
Just play the game. I mean, look at Taysom Hill. I mean, look at myself. I'll use us as examples. Like, I'm not into this black and white thing. I don't get caught up into that foolishness, because it don't get you nowhere. I'm into because you know who you are. They don't need to tell you who you are.
Right.
It's more about, if that's what you want to do, man, do it.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you want to do it. Don't let them change you from doing what it is you want to do. They have to evolve and to understand how instrumental you can be to that team. Because if you put another player in that's less mobile or has less athletic ability and all he can do is throw the football, see how long that lasts.
Yeah, you're
All
right.
I'll say is, if you're sitting behind that, make sure you're staying in shape.
Make sure you stay.
Make sure you're on a treadmill. Make sure you're getting your runs in, your gasses after practice. Make sure you get your after practice throws with the receivers.
Absolutely.
Because I guarantee you that player won't last that long. Because the offensive lineman, I mean, come on.
They're coming, boy. On defense, they're coming. They're coming for
boys,
you.
Them boys look like
JJ Watt come across that corner, boy. You might not make it. You better have a few jukes. You better have a few jukes.
Play if you want to, and think that type of quarterback will. I'm gonna tell you, because Peyton Manning was good for so long, because Tom Brady was good for so long, that was the motto when it came down to how do you grab guys in the AFC. Mm-hmm. When you look at the NFC, it was about who? It was about the mobile quarterback. Because it was Randall Cunningham, it was Steve Young, it was Michael Vick, it was Donovan McNabb. That was the highlight of those conferences. So the AFC is the conference that has to buy into it because, hey, it's a copycat league, right?
For sure.
So if Peyton Manning's doing it the way he's doing it, Drew Bledsoe's doing it the way he's doing it, if Andrew Luck's doing it the way he's doing it, Tom Brady's doing it the way he's doing it, hell, we got to go find one of those guys to at least compete in the conference.
Well, they had to change the rules to keep those guys relevant. Now you can't touch anybody. If they had to get beat down like they did in the 80s and 90s, they wouldn't be around like this.
So guess what? Tom Brady's gone. Peyton Manning's gone. Yeah. Tom Brady's gone. Who do you have coming up next? Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. So if you look at the wave of how the game is trending right now, that model of that style of quarterback in this era that we are coming into now, it's starting to become non-existent because if you can't move, why do you think Baker Mayfield got drafted? Because he could throw the ball great.
Yeah, he could.
That joker got in there. He could move.
He could run around.
So just remember that. Think about it this way: AFC has always been that Neil O'Donnell's, the Phillip Rivers, the Peyton Mannings, the Andrew Lucks, Tom Brady's. The NFC, the guys who are really winning. Cam Newton, even for that conversation. You could try to find a true passer, but who ends up getting to the dance more times than not in NFC? You get guys that are throwing the ball, but the action in that conference was the mobility, and the answer in the AFC was the ability to be able to throw the ball downfield all day, 2-minute drills, things like that. So it's evolving.
We see it in college too, and it's been like that longer in college where you had to be able to run a little bit. If your quarterback couldn't move, you couldn't really win. It didn't matter. So it used to be, you can't stop the people from running. You can't win. If you can't beat us throwing and catching, though, you got to have some movement. So I know you have golf on your mind, my friend, and you've given us a little more than 30 minutes. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Marcus Allen and all other people out there.
Fact, there he is right there, Marcus.
Hey, Marcus, say hi to my show real quick. How's it going, Mr. Trojan? How you doing?
He say you doing?
This is a Notre Dame show right here, but we like USC too sometimes, too.
Look, he said it's a Notre Dame show. He like USC sometimes.
Sometimes. You got 30 minutes for me. You just take over the phone. Anyway, hey, Kordell, appreciate it. Enjoy the golf course today, man. Have fun. Stay safe, stay corona-free, 6 feet or whatever you guys do in Atlanta, and we'll roll, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, man, stay strong, man, and a lot of crazy stuff going on the streets today, rightfully so when it comes to just equality and just to be heard, but just be safe in that process. That goes to everybody that's listening. Just be safe, man.
No burning, no killing, no shooting, just speak.
Yeah, be vigilant in what you want and need, but do it with the voice as opposed to, a way that can then, I think, condemn an entire community, culture, and things of that nature. So just be smart, do what you're doing, protest for what you're protesting for. But again, just know we have little ones that are growing up to want to see their future and at some point in time, just do the right thing and whatever that may be, but just make sure you don't get yourself hurt and others around you. And let's make sure we can get home and go to sleep and wake up the next day to see our family because we did the right thing. Because it's crazy out in these streets, man. It really is. It's really, 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 really crazy right now. And I love everybody, and it's about everybody. And just be safe, man.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Swing well today.
Be good.
All right, take care. Out.
Yeah.
But now the day has come. But let you know where I'm coming from. Yeah. Baby. what you done for me. Now, baby, set my heart beating. Now, baby, look what you done for me. Now, baby, set my heart